Chapter 1. Orientation to Planet Earth. I was roused from my deep slumber by a noise I could not place. I sat up in bed and looked around, but I could see nothing unusual as the silvery moonlight streamed in through the windows. And then a wispy apparition appeared in the doorway and moved toward my bed. I relaxed as I could now see my dear friend and guide, Albert, had returned. His astral form floated effortlessly in the moonlight as he offered me one of his warm smiles. I was thrilled to have him back in my life, and I was eager to see what he had in mind for me this time. "Hello, Albert," I greeted him. "What brings you here today?" "I have a few surprises for you. Are you up for another adventure?" "Sign me up, Albert. I need a little more excitement in my life, something to get the juices flowing again." "I will have to be careful in that regard, because I do not want to impair your health," Albert retorted. "At your age, you can become overly excited if you find 2 prizes in the Cracker Jack box instead of the usual 1. And the other day your heartbeat went through the roof when you found a dime on the street." I gave Albert a painful wince and fired back, "Pardon me while I roll on the floor laughing. Your humor is really cutting edge. Have you been attending comedy school in your spare time?" And then, as he had done many times before, Albert reached out to grab my astral hand and then tugged until he had pulled my astral body out of my physical body. Without further ado, he guided me up through the ceiling and the wispy clouds hanging in the night sky until we came to a stop high above our beautiful planet. Once again, I got to marvel at the breathtaking splendor of the blue orb floating in the darkness of the void, a scene that seemed more spectacular with every visit. With a gentle nudge, Albert led me through the shimmering doorway to the spirit side. The meadow on the other side seemed even more inviting than before, as we strolled through the lush green grass and past the profusion of fragrant wildflowers, proudly displaying their vibrant blooms in a myriad of colors. Beside the gleaming white city of Aglaia, we paused under a giant redwood tree and settled down on a wooden bench nestled beside the roses bordering the stone path. The soft light that seemed to emanate from everywhere wrapped the meadow with a warm embrace, as the songbirds chirped a heavenly opus to the gods. We were soon joined by a familiar figure from my previous travels with Albert. Sophia, the chair of the Council of Wise Ones, projected an aura of love, compassion, and wisdom that never failed to astound. She greeted us with a warm smile that lit up her regal face with an inner glow. I recalled my first meeting with Sophia on my initial trip to the spirit side. In the white city of Aglaia, Albert had guided me toward a stately building at the far end of the plaza, a magnificent structure with Grecian pillars lining the front. When we reached the front of the building, which he called the Hall of Wisdom, we entered through the wide-open doorway. At the end of a long hallway, we stopped in front of a grand door made of burnished brass, and Albert announced our presence with the round door knocker. Upon hearing the word "Enter" from inside, Albert opened the door, and we stepped into the room. It was large and circular, with a high domed ceiling. The room was well lit without any visible light fixtures, as the light seemed to emanate from the walls. In the center of the room was a table in the form of a semicircle with the open section facing the door. The table was black and smooth like gleaming granite, and it seemed to float in place without legs or any other visible means of support. There were 11 people seated at this table, facing the center of the semicircle where Albert and I stood. They wore long gold-colored robes, with a white sash tied around the waist. They looked very regal, with snow-white hair and smooth, unwrinkled skin. Seated at the center was a striking woman with intense blue eyes, who Albert said was Sophia, the chair of the panel.